In the grim dark of the far future, there is only war. Throughout history, we have seen untold horrors and misery inflicted on humanity by the forces of chaos and their associated ruinous powers. With trillions upon trillions of lives across countless worlds being decimated, enslaved, or corrupted by the evil forces of chaos, humanity fights a constant pitched battle against the dark tide of corruption that seeks to sweep across the galaxy, especially in the current setting with the opening of the Great Rift. But there are those who would stand against the darkness of the warp, including Corvus Corax, the Raven Lord. Greetings all, I am your guide, the Archivist. Today I will dive into an overview of Corvus Corax, his rise to power, and his final fate. Before we begin, please make sure to like and subscribe waypoints down below, so that more people can learn from the archives. Who was Corvus Corax? The enigmatic figure known as Corvus Corax, or the Raven Lord, the Liberator, the Deliverer, Chooser of the Slain, and the Shadowed Lord, is currently absent from his role as the Primarch of the Raven God chapter of the Space Marines and its successor chapters. Corax had a remarkable appearance, characterized by alabaster white skin, shoulder-length hair as dark as a raven's feathers, and eyes like solid shards of shadow. His imposing presence was accentuated by sable power armor, adorned with fine golden figures and a jetpack fashioned into raven-like pinions, which he wielded as a formidable weapon in battle. In addition to a diverse array of artificer-wrought weapons, Corax often carried a pair of lengthy lightning claws and a coiled whip, serving as a constant reminder of the suffering endured by the people of his homeworld. Not widely known among his gene sons, Corax possessed the uncanny ability to evade detection at will, allowing him to elude his foes even when in plain sight. Following the devastation of the 19th Legion during the Horus Heresy, Corax sought to rebuild his forces by employing advanced genetic knowledge and an undifferentiated Primarch genetic template. However, the unforeseen consequences of this endeavor led him to grant mercy to the mutant spawn resulting from his experiments. Subsequently, Corax embarked on a quest for redemption in the Eye of Terror, and despite his current whereabouts and condition remaining a mystery to the Raven Guard and the Imperium, he endures within the Immaterium. Continuous exposure to the warp has led to multiple mutations, unveiling the truth beneath the facade of every Primarch's Emperor-granted form. Origins. Corax, like all the Primarchs, was taken from the Emperor as an infant in the Emperor's gene laboratory below the Himalayan mountains, on Terra by the ruinous powers of chaos. The Chaos Gods seized the infant Primarch's gestation chamber and hurled it through the warp, halfway across the galaxy. Corax was eventually found in a lightless chamber deep beneath the surface of a desolate moon called Lycaeus. Kiava was a technologically advanced forge world at the time, supplying its city-sized manufactoria with minerals extracted from the non-atmospheric moon by legions of mine slaves. Above the cavern was a mighty glacier, and the Primarch might never have been discovered if it weren't for the timely arrival of a team of Lycaean miners chasing a mineral seam. The miners' rapid appearance within solar minutes of the young Primarch gaining consciousness led some to believe that greater powers were at work. Whatever the truth, the Primarch was taken in by the slaves and hidden from the mine's cruel overseers. Under the heavy watch of heavily armed guards, the enslaved inhabitants of Lycaeus, including criminals, political opponents, and workers who had failed to meet their quotas, had long provided the rulers of Kiavir with free and unlimited sources of manpower. Like many other Primarchs, Corax matured in an unusually short span of time, that he represented a great gift to their people. It was they who named him, using their word for saviour or deliverer, in anticipation of future deeds. Although the young Primarch was created with a wealth of knowledge already imprinted in his mind, he had much to learn from his protectors. Many of the prisoners were radicals condemned for holding views contrary to the interests of the ruling tech guilds, notions of justice and human dignity that had no place in their brutal regime. Corax promised to liberate them from their cruel existence. Luckily, his mentors advised caution against overt signs of defiance or rushed quest for vengeance. From these brave, wise individuals, Corax learned to bide his time and observe his foes, using his superhuman, genetically enhanced faculties to plan far ahead for the day he would lead the uprising and overthrow the hated slave lords of Lycaeus. During this period, Corax discovered the extraordinary abilities he had been granted. Skillfully evading the cold-hearted wardens, he remained undetected, even when in plain view. His uncanny gift allowed him to move about unseen, outmaneuvering the watchful guards. However, he learned that his powers had limits, as technological detection methods could still spot him. Nonetheless, Corax's master over the minds of his observers proved invaluable, enabling him to operate unnoticed within the prison. As Corax matured, he orchestrated a brilliant campaign that ultimately led to the downfall of the oppressive tech guilds. With strategic precision, he led small factions of freedom fighters on various missions, weakening the prison authorities. Eventually, the time for rebellion arrived, and Corax spearheaded the slave uprising, liberating the prison from centuries of oppression. The battle for freedom was brutal, requiring Corax to enlist even convicted criminals, setting aside their past transgressions in exchange for their aid in the revolt. In a momentous turn of events, the liberation of the prison moon Lycaeus coincided with the Emperor's arrival to reclaim his lost gene son. The Emperor's solitary visit and prolonged conversation with Corax stirred much speculation, with some suggesting that profound and foreboding subjects were discussed, transcending the knowledge of ordinary mortals and even some of the other Primarchs. The true nature of their conversation remains shrouded in mystery, hinting at unsettling truths lurking within the warp and the impending darkness that loomed on the horizon. His appearance. The archives showed that Corax had a commanding presence, especially when he desired to be noticed. His complexion was pale as alabaster, and his shoulder-length hair matched the inky black feathers of his namesake, the Raven. Like many Primarchs, he had a unique and striking appearance, and it seems his unique blend is that of a resemblance of a raven bird, hence his title, the Raven Lord. This similarity goes as far as not only his bird-like appearance, but even his countenance of reservedness and stealth, preferring to lurk in the shadows than be seen outright. He often took a laid-back approach to many of his lore interactions as a result. However, what truly captivated and disquieted was his eyes, entirely black, resembling solid shards of shadow. This is his most prominent and well-known feature, adding to his extremely dark and grim appearance. His sleek power armor was adorned with delicate golden designs, and he bore a jetpack on his back crafted to resemble the outstretched wings of a raven, which he seamlessly wielded as a deadly, bloody-tipped instrument of warfare. Powers and gear. In combat, Corax had a preference for a heavy bolter for taking out targets from a distance, handling it with the same ease as an ordinary person would a battle rifle. He also carried 2 Archaeotech pistols for added firepower. For close combat, he utilised a custom-made 3-headed power whip from the Adeptus Mechanicus and a pair of lightning claws known as the Raven's Talons, all part of the panoply of the Raven Lord. In the absence of these weapons, he was more than capable of engaging enemies with his bare hands. Corax donned a jet black power suit of power armor known as the Sable Armor, which featured an advanced jetpack called the Corvidine Pinions. The Sable Armor had the ability to conceal its energy signature and interfere with nearby enemy communications. The Emperor's own artificers fashioned the Sable Armor for the Master of the Raven Guard. The highly sophisticated power armor not only provides the Primarch with defense against outside attack, but also conceals his sensor signature. Additionally, he has the capability to disrupt enemy sensors and transmissions in his immediate vicinity. However, Corax's most formidable capability is his Wraith Slip, also known as Shadow Slip or Shadow Walk. This allowed him to seemingly merge with the surrounding shadows, vanishing from the sight of his adversaries before launching unseen attacks. After his reappearance following the heresy, Corax became imbued with the power of the warp itself. He could now confront the demon Primarch Lorgar and has the ability to transform himself into Shadow's darkness and the manifestation of ravens. His deeds. When the Raven Lord assumed leadership of his legion, the Great Crusade had already spanned over a century. Corax wasted no time in implementing his perfected style of war, which emphasized stealth, guile, vigilance and swiftness, overshadowing the previous defining characteristics of the 19th Legion. This led to the removal of much of the original demeanor of the old 19th Legion, especially the cold-blooded ways of the Xeric tribes that had comprised its original Terran recruits. Given the Legion's history of serving in oppressive and occupying roles, Corax noted the similarities between certain Terrans in his Legion and the slavers of Lycaeus. Consequently, a number of high-ranking officers, including Arcus Fal, who had commanded the 19th Legion as its Legion Master for 30 solar decades, were reassigned or displaced from commander roles. Under Corax's leadership, the Raven Guard honed their skills to extraordinary levels, guided by a set of battle mantras. Corax was even able to outmaneuver Rabute Gilliman, his brother Primarch, in strategic simulations, employing unconventional troop types that Gilliman had not previously encountered. Although Corax had bested Gilliman 3 times in this manner, the Ultramarines Master learned from the experience and adjusted his tactics, leading to Corax never defeating him in this manner again. During the restructuring period, the 19th Legion introduced several innovative technologies from the Forges of Mars, all designed to further their mastery of stealth and speed. Notably, they acquired a variant of the Thunderhawk gunship known as the Shadowhawk, equipped with advanced technologies that rendered it nearly invisible to all but the most sensitive sensors. During the Great Crusade, Kiavar solidified its place within the Emperor's Imperium of Worlds. Although its production capacity didn't match that of a fully established forge world of the Mechanicum, Kiavar's forges and manufactories, supported by the tech priests of Mars, churned out substantial quantities of material and specialized machinery and weaponry for the Raven Guard Legion. The Guild artificers made efforts to safeguard their most closely held secrets from the Mechanicum, achieving some degree of success, and staunchly maintained their autonomy from Mars. Having sustained self-reliance through the desolate ages, Kiavar remained unwilling to divulge its secrets to outsiders, acknowledging only the authority of the Raven Guard. Out of the Mechanicum's subsidiary domains, Kiavar exclusively upheld relations with Griffon 4. The details of this association remain ambiguous, but given that the Legio Griffonicus fought alongside the Raven Guard in several major campaigns, it can be inferred that some form of reciprocal pact was, and perhaps still is, in place. During the Great Crusade, Corax and his Raven Guard Legion undertook a significant campaign across the Isstvan system into Imperial compliance. Situated in the northern reaches of the Ultima Segmentum, far from the heartlands of the Imperium, Isstvan III was discovered by scout vessels from Corax's 27th Expeditionary Fleet. These scouts found evidence of a well-established industrialized society that had endured for millennia, making it a top priority for contact and absorption into the Imperium. Upon receiving this crucial responsibility of bringing the Isstvan system into Imperial compliance, Corax and his Raven Guard Legion swiftly embarked on their mission. Leveraging their renowned expertise for surgical strikes and precision tactics, the Black Horde strike cruisers and gunships of the Raven Guard executed strategic assaults with unwavering determination. Despite the formidable resistance of the Istvanian military forces, the relentless efforts of the 19th Legion led to the systematic dismantling of Isstvan III's military infrastructure and establishment of imperial authority over its governance. Even in the face of the indomitable Space Marines, the professional soldiers of the indigenous Istvanians exhibited remarkable resilience. Despite some resistance, the Raven Guard ultimately vanquished the last remnants of opposition at the Redarth Valley on Isstvan III. The formal surrender of the Istvanian delegation before Primarch Corax and the 800 companies of Raven Guard Space Marines marked the decisive triumph of the 19th Legion. During the 19th Legion's history, the need to wage war conventionally led to a major setback, presaging the events of Isstvan V. Following Horus's appointment as the Imperial War Master, The Raven Guard was summoned from operations along the Ghoul Stars to join other legions under his direct command. The Akum Sothos cluster, previously brought to Imperial compliance by the Lunar Wolves, had fallen to a mass psychosis due to Xenos parasites, leading to their secession from Terra. Horus, determined to reclaim the cluster's worlds, devised a lightning war plan to defeat the unsighted kings and preserve the infrastructure for future repopulation. Despite objections from Corax, the plan called for the Raven Guard to engage in frontal assault, as part of the strategy to draw off enemy forces and allow the other legions to overwhelm. Despite objections from Corax, the plan called for the Raven Guard to engage in frontal assault, despite Corax wanting to employ a strategy that would draw off enemy forces and allow the other legions to overwhelm the defenders at the walls. In response, Perturabo accused Corax of trying to avoid battle, which was a serious offence for a Primarch of the Legion as Astartes. The situation escalated to the point where they almost engaged in physical combat, but Leman Russ intervened and prevented further conflict. Russ advised Corax to consider the words of a Primarch appointed by the Emperor, and suggested that Corax should channel his bitterness to fuel the determination needed to succeed in battle. Following this discussion, Corax gathered the Raven Guard before Gate 42. Understanding the unique qualities of his troops, Corax assigned many of his Terran-dominated companies to the forefront, particularly those led by captains who were most dedicated to fulfilling the War Master's plan. The resulting assault was considered the Legion's darkest hour, a grim honour that was later overshadowed by the events of Istvan V. During the intense battle, as the assault companies suffered heavy casualties and the attack faltered, Corax himself led the final charge, inspiring the 19th Legion to push through and capture Gate 42. Horus, as the War Master, claimed the honour of defeating the unsighted kings, and their hold over the population was broken. Although the Orcum Sothos cluster was secured and the War Master's objective achieved, the cost was immense, resulting in numerous casualties among both the population of the Raven Guard, especially those from Terra. Despite being proclaimed a victory for Horus, the Battle of Gate 42 had far-reaching consequences. The 19th Legion suffered significant losses, decreasing their strength to only 80,000 legionnaires under the Primarch's command, making them the smallest of the Legionnaires Astartes. Corax decided to withdraw himself and his legion from Horus's command, vowing never to serve alongside him again. Another lasting impact of their battle was the absence of line officers who had previously served under Horus, as they had either perished or joined the warrior lodges and subsequently died in combat. This led to a significant reduction in Horus's influence over the Raven Guard. Detractors claimed that by assigning the Terran-born legionaries to the assault wave that would endure the highest losses, Corax was consolidating his power and shaping the Legion according to his vision. Consequently, the Legion was largely spared from the wave of insurrection that affected many of the other legions through the covert activities of the lodges. The Heresy. During the Horus Heresy, the Dropsite Massacre took place on the planet Istvan V. The Emperor sent a large force of what he believed were 7 loyalist Space Marine legions to end the rebellion led by War Master Horus and the other known traitor legions who had turned to worship of chaos. This included the World Eaters, the Emperor's Children, and the Death Guard. The Loyalist Iron Hands, Salamanders, and Raven Guard legions were part of the first wave of the assault. Thousands of drop pods and storm birds were employed for the initial attack. The Primarch Ferrus Manus led the first wave, along with the Salamanders led by Vulcan and the Raven Guard under the command of their Primarch Corax. Vulcan's legion assaulted the left flank of the Traver's battle line, while Ferrus Manus, the Iron Hands' first captain Gabriel Santor, and elite Morlock Terminators charged into the centre of the enemy lines. Meanwhile, Corax's legion hit the right flank of the enemy's position. The odds were considered equal, with 30,000 traitor marines against 40,000 loyalists. Horus fell upon the loyalist legions after being aware of their chosen drop site. The battlefield of Istvan V witnessed a devastating conflict. Former brothers-in-arms fought against each other in an unprecedented display of bitterness. Titan war engines walked the planet's surface, leaving death in their wake. The blood of heroes and traitors flowed, and the perversions of ancient technology unleashed havoc upon the loyalists. The traitor forces held, but their line was bending beneath the fury of the loyalist assault. The forces on the surface had been locked in battle for almost 3 hours with no clear victor emerging. Even now, the loyalists await the second wave of allies to make planetfall, believing they would be reinforced for their final advance. The traitors all knew their parts to play in this performance. They were aware of the blood they must shed to spare their species from destruction. They were aware of the blood they must shed to spare themselves from destruction and install Horus as the new master of mankind. The Raven Guard were engaged in a fierce confrontation with the treacherous word-bearers, led by their Primarch Lorgar, the first Captain Corfarion, and the first Chaplain Erebus. The two legions clashed in a brutal battle, unleashing unimaginable fury and devastation. The demigod-like anger of Lord Corax, Primarch of the Raven Guard, manifested as pure wrath in physical form. Displaying unmatched ferocity, Corax charged into the ranks of the traitorous word-bearers, swiftly cutting them down with his black blades. As the dying word-bearers cried out for help over the Vox, the leader of the demon-possessed Astartes, Argel Tal, and his Gal Vorbak faced their doom at the hands of Corax. Meanwhile, Lorgar, mirroring his brother's actions, effortlessly slaughtered enemy Astartes. Despite the Raven Guard's valiant efforts, they were overwhelmed and forced to retreat as Corax relentlessly ploughed through the Gal Vorak. Remarkably, Corax halted his advance, observing the Raven Guard falling back from him, leaving a trail of fallen comrades at his feet. In the midst of a furious clash, Corax and Lorgar engaged in a brutal duel, each fighting for different reasons. Corax's rage fueled his relentless attacks, while Lorgar fought desperately for his survival. Harsh words and accusations flew between them as they clashed, and Corax demanded answers for the treachery committed by Lorgar and his legion. In response, Lorgar revealed the haunting visions of their father as a lifeless figure on the throne of gold, forever screaming into the void, unsettling Corax even more. With a swift and vicious strike, Corax inflicted deep scars on Lorgar's face, ensuring that he would carry the marks of their battle for the rest of his days. Despite Lorgar's valiant efforts, Corax's expertise and speed gave him the upper hand, leading to a decisive blow that impaled Lorgar through the stomach. While such an injury meant little to a Primarch, it left Lorgar staggering as Corax pushed onwards into relentless battle. Amid the chaos of battle, the fierce clash of claws raked through the word-bearer's body, causing untold damage. Illuminarum slipped from the impaled Primarch's grasp, yet he continued to grapple with his adversary. Despite being carved apart by the Raven Lord, the word-bearer tightened his grip around Corax's throat. Even as his nose was shattered and skin torn, the Raven Lord stood unwavering. The claws snagged against Lorgar's reinforced bones, yet Corax tore them free, inflicting further injury. Blood sizzled and vanished on the force-fielded blades, leaving Lorgar on his knees, clutching the ruins of his stomach. As Corax raised his claw to deliver the final blow, Lorgar defiantly faced his fate, reflecting bitterly on his unwillingness to be a soldier. In the midst of battle, the final strike echoed as opposing metal met its mark. As Corax locked eyes with his adversary, he saw a reflection of his own darkness in the face as pallid as his own. His talons strained against a mirrored weapon, the clash of their blades creating a harsh, grating noise. One claw sought to strike and end a life, while the other stood firm in its defensive stance. While the features of a Raven Guard Primarch were etched with fierce determination, his opponent's face bore a twisted grin. It was a smile devoid of joy, the grin of a dead man, frozen in the grip of rigor mortis. It was Conrad Kurz. Despite Corax's efforts to break free, the Night Haunter's gauntlet closed around his brother's wrist, preventing any chance of escape. Looking down at his fallen brother, Kurz demanded that Corax rise from his knees, displaying disgust at what he perceived as cowardice. Unwilling to remain passive, Corax activated his flight pack, expending his fuel reserves to break free from Kurz's hold. With a ripping noise, the Raven Lord's claw broke loose, and Corax ascended into the sky propelled by jet thrust, leaving behind the echoing laughter of Kurz. In the midst of this tumultuous exchange, Kurz pushed Lorgar back towards his word-bearers, while the forces of the Grey Legion clashed with the Warriors in Black. Those who were trapped upon escape fought to their last breath, eventually slaughtered by Angron, Mortarion and Horus. After suffering heavy losses during the Dropside massacre of Isstvan V, and with the Imperium facing imminent collapse, a gravely wounded Corax was transported back to Terra in stasis. Although his physical wounds healed, he was haunted by the experience and eventually returned to his homeworld of Deliverance to rebuild his legion. Corax realised that he had fled from a confrontation due to fear, not of death, but of becoming a savage like his adversaries. Driven by the loss of his legion and a desire for vengeance against Horus, Corax sought the Emperor's help in rebuilding his devastated forces. Despite opposition from Rogel Dawn and Malkador the Sigillite, Corax communed with the Emperor, learning crucial truths about chaos, the heresy, and the Imperial project to control the Webway. The Emperor revealed that the heresy was orchestrated by the Chaos Gods to defeat him and enslave humanity through Horus and the traitor legions. The Emperor made a groundbreaking decision to aid Corax and revealed an astonishing truth. The genetic assets of the Primarch project had not been annihilated as previously believed. Instead, they lay dormant, including living samples of the original gene stock used to create the 20 Primarchs. Although the Emperor did not offer any explanation for the existence of these facilities and gene stock, he emphasized that it must never fall into the wrong hands. Accompanied by Raven Guard squads, Adeptus Mechanicus specialists, and custodians as overseers, Corax successfully located and accessed the Emperor's heavily guarded gene laboratories beneath the Imperial Palace in the Himalayan mountains. Despite facing numerous traps, the Primarch gene stock and related technical information was secured. After weeks of dedicated efforts from Corax, Chief Apothecary Vincent VI, and Magos Genitor Nexin Orlandrias, a breakthrough was achieved. A new reservoir of stable Astartes gene seed was extracted from the Primarch DNA, which was purer than the normal Raven Guard gene stock. This gene seed was implanted with 500 aspirants, resulting in exceptionally capable Astartes called Raptors. These warriors, placed under the overall command of Captain Bran, showed immense potential during a successful attack against the Wordbearer's intelligence outpost. The future of the 19th Legion appeared promising as they embraced the prospects for reconstruction. The Alpha Legion had different intentions. They patiently waited for the Raven Guard to achieve a genetic breakthrough. During this time, they were sowing seeds of rebellion among the old tech guilds of Kiavir, the forge world that the Moon Deliverance circled. Simultaneously, they were assembling an Alpha Legion force nearby, while misleading both their normal allies among the traitor legions and their supposed allies in the Cabal about their true purpose. With the assistance of the Adepts of the Dark Mechanicus, the Alpha Legion operatives within the Raven Guard contaminated the pure Primarch gene stock with a virus tainted with demonic essence. The nature of the virus was unknown to the Alpha Legionnaires until after the gene stock had been contaminated, as their Dark Mechanicus allies had insisted the virus could be easily extracted once the Primarch gene stock came into their possession. The following cadre of 2,000 Raven Guard Astartes experienced predictable disaster. All manifested hideous warp-related mutations after being implanted with their gene seed organs, and many of them had to be kept imprisoned. Corax declared that, mutation or not, he considered them as much a part of the Raven Guard as the rest of his Astartes, and vowed to find a way to reverse the mutations. Meanwhile, the Alpha Legion's plans were reaching their climax. As the Legion fought in isolation against Horus's forces, isolated from the other Imperial forces, nothing is known for sure of the initial results of Corvus's program. However, an element of truth is found in the Space Wolves saga of the Wergeld, which tells of ferocious monsters led to combat by their Raven Guard battle brothers. Regrettably, the effort to rebuild the 19th Legion laid in ruins. With a heavy heart, Corax acknowledged that his decision to take a shortcut in replenishing his Legion's ranks had been a mistake. He resolved that the 19th Legion would gradually and painstakingly rebuild its numbers through the traditional method of transforming human aspirants into Space Marines over many years of genetic alteration and training. However, this meant that the Raven Guard would not be able to significantly contribute to defending the Imperium against the traitor legions. After the Space Marine legions were reorganized in the second founding chapters following the conclusion of the heresy, The Raven Guard found themselves largely inactive as a combat unit and was compelled to spend decades recruiting new members and regaining its strength. Struggling with a shortage of personnel and equipment following the massacre of Isfahan 5, the Raven Guard focused on perfecting covert small unit guerrilla tactics that relied on minimal fire support, armoured assistance or heavy equipment, which were lacking in the chapter and its successors. Even today, the Raven Guard's absence of predators, land raiders and the latest models of power armour serve as a testament to the conditions the chapter endured in the past. His final fate. After the Horus Heresy, Corax couldn't shake the memory of the terrifying, inhuman creatures of humanity that he had personally unleashed. By the time Corax had rebuilt his legion to its former strength, the Horus Heresy had ended, and Rabute Gilliman's Codex Astartes mandated that the legion be divided into smaller, more adaptable 1,000 Astartes units known as chapters. Never again would one individual command the might of an entire Space Marine legion. Though hesitant, Corax reluctantly divided his remaining forces into the new second founding successor chapters in alignment with Gilliman's vision, but he was weighed down by the desire to atone for his past sins. Eventually, he chose to personally bring the Emperor's peace to the remaining aberrant Raven Guard mutants, praying for their souls and his own. Consumed by guilt after the executions, Corax secluded himself in his personal chamber in the Raven Spire, the Raven's Tower, pleading for the Emperor's mercy. It remains unknown whether Corax found the absolution he sought, but exactly a year after retreating to the Raven Spire, he departed for the Eye of Terror, vanishing from Imperial space. His parting words were, "Nevermore." And so I have now covered the content for this video, but if there is anything that has been missed, please share them in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this content, please remember to like the subscribe and like waypoints down below. In the grim dark of the far future, there is only war.